There I am. Good afternoon, and welcome to the second day of our business development workshops, which is all part of the 2025 BLDC Business Plan Competition. Just to recap, the 2025 BLDC EAP Business Plan Competition is presented by M&T Bank, organized by the Binghamton Local Development Corporation, the Entrepreneurial Assistance Center based at SUNY Broome, along with Binghamton University's Koffman Southern Tier Incubator. Competition, which is the longest running in the Greater Binghamton area, seeks to cultivate local business development, promote entrepreneurial spirit, raise awareness about EAP training, BLDC financing, and other community resources to help small businesses grow. For more information or an entry form, please go to the city's website. Reminder, entries are due for the competition next Wednesday, April 2nd. Competition has a $10,000 prize list made possible by the generous co-sponsorship of M&T Bank, along with the Koffman Southern Tier Incubator, the Binghamton Oneonta Building Trades Council, and Saul Stearns. It has a $7,000 first place cash award, $2,000 second place award, and $1,000 third place award. In addition to the $7,000 cash award, the first place winner only will receive several additional awards generously donated by Binghamton businesses and organizations, two of which are tonight's presenters. $500 in branding services is courtesy of tonight's first presenter, IdeaCraft of Binghamton. Our second presenter, $500 of legal counsel courtesy of Coughlin and Gerhardt LLP. 5 hours of accounting services, courtesy of Davidson Fox and Company of Binghamton. $500 in sign creation services from 3i Graphics and Signs of Binghamton. $500 in website services, courtesy of Freshie, a past competition winner, also from Binghamton. 3 months of free membership in the Koffman Southern Tier Incubator, courtesy of Binghamton University, and a year's membership in the Triple Cities Makerspace, another competition winner. Again, thank you all for attending tonight's presentation. Our hope is that this seminar will give you the tools, tips, connections, and inspiration to put together a great business plan that works, most importantly for you and for our community. After this week's presentations, our next milestone is April 2nd, next Wednesday, with the application and executive summary. You can find that on the city's website. It's a fillable PDF. We are a small office. Do not hesitate to give us a call if you have any questions. Also, please do not hesitate to contact the Small Business Development Center located at the Koffman Incubator. The SBDC is a partnership with the U.S. Small Business Administration and Binghamton University. They offer free and confidential counseling on putting together a business plan. Give them a call, 607-777-4024. We'll post our speakers' presentations on the city's website, as well as links for the video recording of tonight's presentation. Our first speaker talking about the entrepreneurial mindset has truly lived it. Yulina Zajac-Holdridge is the founder of IdeaCraft. She was the 2014 Binghamton Business Plan Competition winner, and incidentally was a student of last night's presenter, our marketing presenter, Cheryl Fabrizi. IdeaCraft is a Binghamton-based creative agency that builds award-winning brands and websites from startups and nonprofits to global Fortune 500 companies. IdeaCraft helps businesses grow by building smart brands and creating exceptional digital experiences. The company of 9 professionals specializes in working with clients from nonprofit, B2B, and manufacturing industries like Binghamton and Syracuse Universities, CUNY and SUNY Cortland, Pleasant Valley Wine Company, ACCO Brands, and even I Love New York. Yulina's award-winning design work has been recognized by many influential design organizations and major publications. In 2021, Yulina was awarded the 2021 Entrepreneur of the Year by New York State's Entrepreneurial Assistance Centers. We are delighted to have her, and please welcome Yulina Zajac-Holdridge.
Thank you so much can you hear me?
We can.
Okay,
Just great.
I lost my sharing screen button. So let me fix this little glitch here. Thank you for a nice introduction. Hello, everyone. I'm glad to be here again. I can't believe it. It's been 11 years since I won this competition. I mean, it's a mind-blowing. It's been 2014. So kind of a long road, and a lot have happened since. But we are still in business. The 2024 was our strongest year that we had to date, with the highest revenue. So I think, and it's been a lot of bumps in the road, and I'm gonna actually talk to you about these today. I never really consider myself true entrepreneur, but I think I kind of grew to that role over the years. I'm constantly learning, and I want this to be hopefully inspiration for you all to participate in this competition, whether you win or not. I think it's gonna be a great experience, and hopefully already is, of using those resources, because I came here in 2004 as an exchange student, met my husband here. So that's the reason I actually moved from Poland. I was born and raised in Poland, and I graduated there, came here without no resources, no financial resources, didn't know anyone. Even and then English wasn't as good. Not that it's perfect right now, but wasn't as good at all. So it's been a lot of hard work and a lot of sleepless nights, and I think, and it still is. But that's I love the entrepreneur journey that I went through, and hopefully I prepare a little presentation for you today. And every year I actually go back to this presentation and I update this, and I think it's the business landscape is changing, and the tools are changing. And last year we haven't talked about AI, and I'm not going to be focusing on AI in my presentation, because I think the separate presentation can be on just AI itself. But I think right now we have so many new tools that we can leverage in our businesses, from day-to-day operations, from writing, from research, analyzing. So I think it's very exciting. And if you're not using AI writing your business plan in some capacity, then you really need to look into that and take advantage of the resources that we have. Anyway, is that okay if Joe, if I
Absolutely.
share my screen? Okay. Let me share it. Can you see it?
Yep, it's good.
I'm gonna try to do actually view full screen. Okay. Do you still see it?
Yep, all good.
Wonderful. Okay, wonderful. I'm just going to give you quick, this is not a pitch. I just want to give you a quick overview of IdeaCraft. I will include my email and a link to our website at the end of presentation. I welcome you to visit us and see our work. We have over 15 years of experience right now, hundreds of projects completed, and some awards along the way. We do have a multiple certification. So I'm also woman-owned business in New York State. I've been certified since 2015. And also I have a DBE certified that I actually was able to use for the first time when I work with Chemung County Transit System. But I've used my WBE certification many times, and it gave me some leverage in winning. Just so one thing that, over the years, we've worked with a lot of nonprofits on grant-specific projects, but as of last year, we actually signed our first contract with the New York State itself. So, it takes time. When I was bidding 10 years ago, I wasn't ready. Maybe I thought I was ready, but I wasn't really not. It had to take me to the 10 years of experience working different projects to actually be contracted by New York State. So that's been, a really significant milestone for us. So we're a creative agency. We build brands and websites. That is really our key expertise. And then, I don't know your businesses. Some of might be product, some of might be services. So, I tried to tailor this a little bit to be more general, but obviously it's going to be skewed a little bit more toward the service business. But this is just a key, our services, brand strategy design, web design development. We build a lot of custom and large websites for education institutions. We work with SUNY Broome on their website, a lot of with the content marketing and video production, photography. So I'm not going to go each of these. These are just a short list of some of the clients we had a pleasure to work with and we are currently working. So as Joel mentioned, we do work with a lot of higher education institutions, including the Ivy schools. We work with some national brands like the Y. We work with I Love New York, Center State CEO, a lot of also municipalities. We work with City of Binghamton, multiple projects with Broome County, but also companies not only in the area like Universal or Caterpillar. I mean, the Caterpillar was really kind of a jumpstart from my business when the local company was awarded license from Caterpillar to design brand new products, and I help them to design the packaging, website, all the collateral to help them start that business. So that was really the reason why I left because I started a career as a graphic designer, then art director for corporate America, then for private company before I quit my job in 2013 and went on my own with my business and started business from one person. Over the years, we kept hiring more and more. And we also, had to let go some people left on the, it's been really learning experience, and that's gonna happen. But I have, amazing team right now. Some of them been here for me for 8-7 years. So that's really, hopefully it's a little bit testament that we're learning too, how to build that culture. This is just a snapshot of some of the people that currently work. We are in a hybrid mode. So I have an employee in Syracuse, I have an employee in Buffalo. I think the COVID has made kind of a natural for a lot of businesses, right? It changed entirely how we work. But I think our nature of our business, creative, because we use a lot of software in the cloud, is just very easy position for remote work. So most of our meetings are via Zoom. I work with clients like Mount Sinai, the health system in New York City, with the JCC, the Jewish Community Council of the Greater Coney Island. I've worked with them for 7 years. Never met them in person, really. And we have a great relationship. So that was even before COVID. So it really, I feel like I've always, sometimes at the beginning, I consider it shortcoming of, being located in Binghamton and not to have the, competitive, maybe leverage in some of but right now I feel like we can, it's really, it's up to us. And if we want to work in a national brand. So, these are just a couple of projects that we did. And again, I invite you to come to our idea-craft.com to visit our full portfolio. This is the identity. We work with SUNY Cortland. We provide them with the branding, illustration, very fun project. I actually partnership with other company out of New Jersey to provide me with some of the illustration. So great. But we also work with Broome Health Department. This was for Rethink Your Vape. So it was a campaign for high school students about the dangers of vaping. And we work with the content creators or creating videos for a lot of social media channels like TikTok and Snapchat. Very interesting project. So this was one of projects for CUNY, really comprehensive website, and also a collateral for Quality Stars and Y. A lot of nonprofits. NIMEC is one of them too. It's a regional genetics network. So everything from collateral branding to website design. And again, this is one of our very good client, Jewish Community Council of the Greater Coney Island. And they found us actually, it was a interesting story. They found us online in MWBE registry in New York State. So a lot of the nonprofits, when they receive a grant, they want to work with minorities company to fulfill the goal. So that was a great, great partnership. And we've been loving since day one. Anyway, so this is what I want to show you it's based on my own experience and my own road. Again, there's been a lot of ups and downs in the last 10 years. And there've been times that I want to quit and I wanted to go back to my 9-to-5 job. I'm glad I didn't. I'm glad so I wanted to show you, also talk about, failures. I'm gonna, you don't have to read. I actually added some more content to those slides. I'll send PDF to Joe, so you gotta have a copy of that. So don't need to take notes. So let's talk about them. So cash flow crisis. This was one of that will happen probably in every business at some point. And there's going to be different factors. Sometimes economy, sometimes it's just timing, maybe some poor investments. But it happened to me, and it happened when I was on vacation, and it was pretty stressful situation. What I've learned from it is that if I surrounded myself, and I think that was probably told you to some of the workshops, to hire what was the accountant, bank, lawyer, right? There was those, I think, four. I can't remember what the fourth one is. But I've been surrounding myself, and actually through the business plan competition, I've met during writing the competition, I met with some of the resources available. I met some people. They told me that my numbers, my predictions, my forecast didn't make any sense. I had to redo them all. I think Sheriff Fabrizi was one of them. They said that didn't make sense because I graduated from art school. So I never went to business school. I never had that business experience and education. So I had to learn everything from scratch, right? I didn't know what the P&L sell sheet means, what cash flow sell sheet means. So I've learned everything along the way. But to have a good accountant, I think it's the key. And the one I have, it's helped me through a lot of different, ups and downs. And, not only helps me to track the expenses, manage taxes, but it helps me to keep the company financial health, right? We've also built up the working capital. So it's really essential to have the financial cushion and, understand at the beginning you might not have that, but if you want to create a sustainable business, that's something that, will help you to weather those difficult times. And, at that time, I've looked at when I went to, obviously, I think at that time maxed out my line of credit. I had loans. I have, payroll to run. And I think what I did, it cut my own payroll, first, my own pay till I, cut the bills, look at everything. And I think in those situations when we face those problems, I think that's where we actually experience the biggest growth, because we've learned a lot not to make the mistake, and that mistake never happened again. So we make sure that, and I have a team also, a bookkeeper and a person in my office that handles this. So it's not only just, me. So definitely that's been, something to position us for financial, health in the future to give us. For me, you're gonna meet a lot of people throughout your business career. And for me, as a service business, not every client is a good client. Very often people who start service business try to get any work as they can, work with every client. But you've learned that not always is the good relationship. Throughout my 15 years career, I only had one really, difficult relationship that we ended, and we, gave all the money back because it just wasn't worth it. It wasn't worth the lawsuit. So I think you're gonna learn that you have to build the relationships throughout your business career. But you also have to, is it a good fit for me? It's the same, asking the same question as you ask, is this client a good fit for me? Am I a good fit for this client? So it's definitely, right now, it's easier for me to say because now we've, built a little bit more reputation, more of a client roster, that we can say no to some of the project. We need to look at is this project will be profitable? Is this project, are we actually have enough bandwidth, so the people enough time to do it well? And do we have the capacity, and also do we have the expertise to do this project well? Sometimes I do jump in things that I don't know 100% because I want to learn, and it's gonna happen. But it's definitely, I'm assuring that I'm very selective right now and try to make sure that it's, both parties will benefit from this relationship. And then talk about money early too, right? So again, especially designers, when they start freelance business, what is in my case, they're just afraid to talk about money, right? And then very often they can be taken advantage of. And sometimes you have to do projects. I work with a lot of interns and high school students. Sometimes you have to do projects, maybe even, as a donation to nonprofit, to build your portfolio, right? So as the more work you do, the more experience you have, then you can actually charge more. So and take care of your team. That's something that, again, I've graduated from the art school, so I never had the true management training. And it took me, and I'm still learning how to take care of my team. When you own a company, you work for everyone else, right? Your employees, your clients, your community, and your family. So my goal right now is to take care of the way I take care of the business is to take care of my team because they're gonna take care of our clients and projects. So, making sure, and at the beginning, it might be just you, might be maybe your spouse, your friend, but as you grow your team, it's essential that it's not just managing the clients and profits. It's actually about leading the team and creating. And some of my employees have left and move on and have amazing careers right now. So I'm happy that I provided them. Some of them started with me right after college. They've learned a lot, and it's natural. They're gonna move on, and some of them stay, some of them move on, and they have great careers. And they sometimes they come to me still now, and thank for that experience they had, right? Anyway, a couple of things I wish I knew sooner. I'm checking the time. Are we good on time?
Oh, you're fine.
Oh,
Yeah.
8 minutes left. Okay.
No,
Um,
you're fine. You don't have to stick to it exact
okay.
time. Don't
No,
worry about
okay. I know, but I'm trying to open up for questions
it. Yep.
too for people. So some things that I wish I knew sooner and ask for help because again, no one achieves a success alone. And I'm gonna give you a couple books recommendations at the end that perfectly illustrate this, that no one really builds the successful business alone. And whether it's a mentors, peers, your team, it might be as simple as asking other business owner for lunch. I still go for lunches with some other business owners that we talk shop, that we talk what kind of tools you use, what kind of we're not sharing any, confidential information, but we're just exchanging our why making the same mistakes that somebody already made, right? Learn from them. I mean, I used the SBDCD for the first business plan and actually loan application when I had to furnish my office at a train station. City of Binghamton helped me, actually Joe helped me to meet with my landlord who's who's been my landlord for I've been in this building since 2013, so 12 years, and I moved from smaller office to the bigger at the train station. But I just been talking to actually to someone about this lately, that it's that's I went to Joe. I said, Joe, I need some office spaces, and he connected me a couple different people, and I visited multiple places before I land here, and I've been happy camper here ever since. And
Great.
I also used the Entrepreneur Assistance Center at SUNY Broome to help me with my WB certification. So that might not be available or applicable to some of you, but I encourage you to look into that in the future. There's minority certification and woman-owned business certification. Again, specialized too. That's something, what it means that there's a saying that the rich is in the niche. So at the beginning, we've done also a lot of working with different brands, different clients. I did a lot of smaller projects. And I think over the years, we really focus on the brand identity, the corporate identity, and web design and development. So, that's kind of where we want to be seen as an expert in our field. So we no longer do maybe, some on that kind of random projects that it just doesn't really fit in our core expertise. Don't be afraid to make the mistakes. I feel right now that those mistakes help me actually grow over the years. So they're just learning opportunities. And the key is to learn quickly, adjust approach, and move forward with more wisdom. And I think they can, the fear of mistakes can hold back very often entrepreneurs. So, but they're necessary for growth. Create a routine. Having a solid daily routine helps keep you disciplined and organized. And I don't know where I read something about like it just as simple as getting up and making your bed. It's the first accomplishment of the day. It makes you feel so much better and just sets up the routine, the positive for entire day. It's different than when it comes to my teenage sons. They never make their bed, but I think it comes with the age. So again, that's something where I try to serve as also example for my employees. So sometimes I'm the first one in the office and last one to leave, but I try to keep the balance also, the work and life. Never stop learning. I'll show you some of the books right now. I attend conferences, I read a lot, I'm investigating the AI. We use AI every day in my office. We're trying to test it where we can use it. We use it in the research, we use it in writing, proofreading. Like for me, English is not my first language. So for me right now with AI tools, there's absolutely no excuse for sending something with a typos. And believe me, my business plan paperwork had the typos, right? So that's something that I've learned. And when I'm submitting, $500,000 proposals to New York State, there better be not typos, right? It really can turn people off. And so I have to make sure that, so that's what, the couple of AI tools we use, but that's something that I try to learn. And because I'm not afraid that AI is going to replace my business. No, I think AI is going to replace people who don't use AI. So I'm actually very excited because it can cut down the time on it can automate some task for us, so we can focus on really what the creativity and what's we are actually best. Don't be afraid to talk about money. Again, even if you're an accountant, even with your client investors, I think it's crucial to have a clear expectation and maintaining the healthy business relationship. And the last, give back, whether it's a community, to employees. It's just, I think it's really important to give back to your community and to give, we done a lot of nonprofit projects pro bono. One story that I have very interesting, last year, I get to work with American Civic Association. It's the local nonprofit that helps immigrants to come and settle and find jobs and apply for adjustment of status or the green card. They actually helped me with all of this. I came here legally, but I had to apply for, permanent resident, and they helped me with all the paperwork, and they helped me actually I think in 2000, it's been 10 years. I think this year will be since I become a citizen. So I was able to give back to them and actually do the project. So this was really, a nice collaboration. Again, I just want to finish because I want to open up for some meeting. I always like to include some book recommendations, and I do change them every year. This year I have a couple of, because I like to read, books, business books that are actually wrote as a novels, and I like to actually read stories about some other business owners, and these two are my favorite. Recently, it's maybe you've seen it. One is The Shoe Dog. It's a memoir by actually Nike co-founder Phil Knight. And this reads like a novel. I mean, it's amazing. It's just, tells about how they started, literally how he started Nike selling running shoes out of his car. And it was called Blue Ribbon Sports Company, and all the different early challenges and evolution. And now it's one of the most recognizable and brand. And Authentic is another book that was actually recommended with other business owner from locally. It's from Paul Van Duren, and it's about the creator of the Vans too. A lot of different story, very different brand, very different audience, but also very humble. And from a personal perspective, very well read. So I love those stories because I can really there's always something that I can take and incorporate in my business. One of them that I had from last year is A Tool of Titans. It's well known for a lot of entrepreneurs. It's the really good book. It's like 500 maybe pages, but it's a chapters. It's split into three sections: healthy, wealthy, and wise. And this is the Tim Ferriss has interviewed over 200 people, and these are athletes, these are business people, these are scientists, and it just talks about their tactics, routines, and habits of those world-class performance. Super interesting. Another one that was recommended, I think, throughout my work business that I did in Syracuse, emerging leaders training, was Built to Sell. It's actually creating a business that thrive without you. So it's also very like a novel, very interesting story about the struggle of the business, like mine, creative, who's struggling to grow the marketing agency, and he changes, go through the numerous changes and sells the business for, I believe, $5 million. So Really great read, and I want to actually go back to this book because it's really. And the last one was actually from Local. It's actually how we play the game. It's a memoir by Ed Stack, who about building the multi-billion-dollar in the Dick's Sporting Goods. Also amazing. I love how he talks about the little store that was unfortunately closed on the Court Street, but how this whole started as a brand and how he actually made that long-term relationship with Nike, with all the sports, how they help him to grow the business. I thought that's really also very entertaining and easy read. So anyway, that's just a couple of examples. I'm happy to, here's my email, and I welcome you to visit idea-craft.com to kind of learn a bit more about what we do, our projects. But I hope that was interesting. I'm happy to answer any questions that you might have. If any, don't be shy. Again, I've been there about 11 years ago, but same, maybe different tools, same process.
I have to ask you,
Yeah.
was that your first dog in your first car? And how did you get the dog to pose on the hood of the car?
Oh yeah, no, but that's a kind of it's a joke within our industry now.
Yeah,
Well, what clients budget is, what sometimes their vision is, what they want is two
right.
different. Yeah, but
Sure.
yeah,
Huh.
it is a
No,
joke. It is like kind of
that's
a industry joke, inside
yeah.
joke.
No, I
Yeah.
remember the Yugo. So
Yeah. All right. So good luck to, if there's no questions, feel free to email me and just ask me separately if you want to. But I just want to say good luck to everyone participating. Hopefully this will be a good experience, and I'm looking forward to the winners. And I wish you all the best with your businesses. Thank you for having me.
yeah. Thank you, Evelina.
Thank you. Bye.
Okay, well, next, joining us to talk about legal concerns with setting up a business is Christopher McElveen, who is with Koffman and Gerhardt, one of our sponsors for the business plan competition. He joined Koffman and Gerhardt in 2022. His practice is concentrated in business, banking, municipal, and public law. He's licensed in New York State and North Carolina. Mr. McElveen began his career as a summer law clerk for a commercial real estate litigation firm in London, England. He was a summer law clerk for a firm in Syracuse, New York, and a student attorney for Syracuse University's Transactional Law Clinic, where he assisted small businesses and nonprofit organizations in a variety of matters, including formations, contract reviews, and dissolutions. Christopher earned his Bachelor of Arts degree in History and Political Science from the University of North Carolina at Chapel Hill, and his Juris Doctor degree from Syracuse University College of Law, right close to home, cum laude at that, and his Master of Laws with concentration in Transactional and Corporate Law from Emory University School of Law. We're very honored to have Chris with us, representing Koffman and Gerhardt. Chris,
Hello,
thank
can you hear
you.
me?
Thank you for joining us.
Of course. So I have a PowerPoint. Is now a good time for me to share with the
Absolutely,
screen?
if you would.
Okay, give me 1 second.
Beautiful.
Okay. So thank you for the introduction. Today I'm going to talk about sort of what I like to think is how you can visualize starting a business sort of from the very beginning steps, mainly focusing on the legal structure and organization.
Absolutely.
So sort of as Joel mentioned, I'm with Koffman and Gerhardt. We've been in the area for over 125 years and serving the community mainly in the Southern Tier and Northern Pennsylvania. And I could go through it all again, but Joel sort of gave the rundown of my background in my education. So to start, I think the very first question you're going to want to think about is where you're going to set your business up. So as you can see on this map, the states are all in different colors, and that's because we have different laws in every state. So when you're going to set up a company in New York, the process is going to be different than it's going to be in Texas or Idaho. You're going to follow different laws, you're going to have different regulations, you're going to have different requirements once the company is actually set up and running. And then on top of that, you'll have the federal government, which will largely come in with tax regulations, but it could play a role too. So with going a step beyond that, you can start thinking about what are the key questions. To me, the biggest one is going to be based around money. How are you going to start the business and how are you going to fund starting the business? Sort of can break it down into two principal ways of starting a business. You can start fresh, you can create it yourself, you can build everything up from the ground floor, or the alternative, you can find a business that already has an established name, a good reputation, already, loyal customers, and you could buy that business, you could take over that business. With that option, though, you're going to need capital. So how are you going to do that? Are you going to be funding it out of pocket, personal contributions? Are you going to be seeking investors? Or are you going to be taking out loans to do that? And then going forward, sort of more long-term thinking, how do you want to run the business? Do you want to have an active role? Are you going to be are you going to be the president? Are you going to be the manager? Or do you want to get to a point where you can take a step back and let other people control the day-to-day operations? And sort of with that, what's your 5 to 10 year plan? Are you looking to run it and continue running your business? Or are you looking to grow it to a point where it's attractive to another buyer and sell your business off? And so with the legal structure, it's all going to be based around setting up the company in some form of an entity. And so on this slide, we'll discuss all these in just a bit, but just sort of the more common ones are sole proprietors, partnerships of various kinds, LLCs, limited liability companies, C corporations, and S corporations. A sole proprietor is probably the most simple form you can do. There is no real filing that you have to make with the state. You set up a business under your name, you hang up a shingle, you set up an online shop, and you can get going pretty much immediately. There's no division between you and the business because you are the business. So it's very, very easy to form. You have complete control over your business. You're not sharing profits with anyone because it's just you. But on the flip side of that, you have all the liability. There's no limited liability protection that some of the other entities that we're going to discuss provide you. And going back to the idea of how you might fund it, if you're looking for investors, this is not the type of entity that's probably going to be best suited for you. With this, DBAs are very common. So if I set up a business in my name, I might not want the business to just be Chris McElveen. I might want to get a DBA, a doing business as, and it is a fictitious name filed in the county that you're going to be doing your business in. And it allows, instead of operating under your name, you can set up however you want. It could be Chris's Emporium, Chris's Rugs, set it up however. And there's no real protection that's given with that. It's not a trademark. It's not a name with LLC or a corporation, which prevents other businesses from having that same name. But it does allow you to operate with another fictitious name, which can be more catchy and can sort of draw more clients to your operation. So a different type of business, which is still similar to a sole proprietor, is general partnerships. And the basic legal definition is it's 2 or more people carrying on business together for profit. It can be formed sort of very informally, same as a sole proprietor. You just get together with another person or a few people and you set up your shop. You start sharing profits, losses, you manage together, and there's no real formality to that, but you're carrying on your business. Or you can have a written partnership agreement. And the partnership agreement, it can be however you want to structure it. And mainly it's going to cover the rights between the partners and the business itself. So if there are certain decisions that are going to require a vote, let's say your company makes routine purchases of $2,000. Maybe that's fine to not require a vote, but anything $5,000 over, you might want a clause in that agreement saying that $5,000 or over requires all the partners to agree on. It can control how someone is going to sell their shares, or their ownership stake, what happens when that person dies. Sort of the drawbacks with this, you still have unlimited liability. You're personally liable. And with this type of a structure, you are also liable for the actions of your partners and the partnership as a whole. So even though you personally might not have done something to bring a lawsuit against you, for instance, but your partner did, you're still personally liable. You're on the hook for that as if it was you. And like a sole proprietor, it's going to be hard to raise capital outside of your direct partners. So if you're looking for third party, just silent investors, this might not be the best option. A different type of partnership is a limited partnership. It is like the general partner where it's two or more people doing business. However, it has two classes essentially of partners. You're going to have a general partner and a limited partner. You form this by filing a document with New York State, the Certificate of Limited Partnership, and you have to do a publication step. This will be common with a couple more entities we'll discuss. It's 6 consecutive weeks in 2 newspapers, and then you have to show proof that you've done that. And like one of the options for the general partnership, you'll have a partnership agreement with the same terms, however you want to hash it out with your partners. So I sort of touched on this. Limited partners are the real benefit to a limited partnership. These people do not take an active management role, but they provide you an opportunity to have investors in your partnership. So you can have a third party person who just wants to simply invest for the opportunity of investing. That person will have limited liability protection. But the active managers, who are going to be called the general partners, they're still on the hook with full personal liability. And a point to note about this, if a limited partner takes some sort of a management role, it's not a clear line, but if they start taking on management roles, liability might attach to them. They might be treated and might be considered a general partner. And with this type of entity, like I mentioned, there is filings with New York State to get it going. So there's a bit of an upfront cost compared to the sole proprietorship or the general partners. A different type of partnership is a limited liability partnership. It's a professional entity, which we'll discuss what those are a little in more detail in just a bit. It's formed by filing the certificate of registration with the Department of State. It has publication requirements the same as we've already discussed, 6 weeks in 2 different newspapers, and you are required to have a partnership agreement. The real benefit and the way this differs from the limited partnership is all partners versus the general partner and limited partner. In this entity, all partners have limited liability protection, and all partners can take management roles. So Koffman Gerhardt, the firm I work for, is a limited liability partnership. So all the partners at this firm, they all can take management roles. They're all managers of all the staff, all the employees, and they all benefit from liability protection. It's a flexible entity. With that partnership agreement, you can really structure it how you need. Ooh, apologize. I'm sitting for too long. The lights turned off on me. 1 second. There we go.
Energy efficient lighting.
It is. I don't know the exact time, but it's probably around 30 minutes.
Yeah.
So let's see. So yeah, very flexible. But like the limited partnership, you're going to have an upfront cost in filing with New York State. And because it is a professional entity, you're often going to be required to carry malpractice insurance, which, depending on what type of business you would be involved in, can be costly. Okay. Limited liability companies. This is probably what many of you are familiar with. It's going to be one of the most flexible operations that you can use. They're very efficient and they are very attractive. So they're sort of a hybrid between corporations and partnerships. They provide limited liability protection for the members who are the owners of the company. And those members are the ones who manage the operation, depending on how you'll set up one of your organizational documents. It's formed by filing articles of organization with New York State Department of State. There's a publication requirement, same as we've discussed, 6 weeks in 2 different newspapers. With an LLC, not a partnership agreement, but you have to have an operating agreement. The operating agreement, it's an internal document. You're not filing that with New York State, but it's an agreement that discusses the rights of all the members who are the owners between each other as members and the company. So that document can control how money's paid out, when money has to be contributed, transferability of membership interests. When someone dies, what happens to their membership interest? This, like I mentioned, this is a really flexible entity. It's becoming more and more common. It's probably the most common entity that I set up on a routine basis for people. There's not a lot of statutory oversight. We'll talk about corporations next, but for LLCs, you're not required to have annual meetings or keep minutes of those meetings. It really allows you to handle things how you would like. But on the negative side of this, it's more expensive to set up than some other types of entities. And you'll have a maintenance filing, which is a biennial statement with the Department of State, which sounds like a big deal. It's just every 2 years. And right now it's a $9 filing fee. So it's not the worst thing out there, but it is something you should keep in mind. And if you ever fall behind on your biennial statement, you can retroactively file those and get caught back up. So with LLCs, by default, they're treated as member managed, meaning the members are the owners. And so the members each together independently have the right to manage the company. Now that is contingent and pursuant to what the operating agreement says. And I personally advise people who are setting up an LLC with other members, with other business partners, to think about what is a comfortable limit on what the members can do individually as the managers. Like I mentioned earlier, if $2,000 is a routine purchase for your business, then members as managers probably should be freely able to make that purchase. But maybe you're not comfortable with the $10,000 purchase. So you could put in your operating agreement that anything $10,000 and over will require a majority vote of the membership. And that's just a way to keep everything cordial and, there's no surprises in how things are being operated. In the alternative to member managed, there is manager managed, where the members can appoint a specific person or multiple people to run the business. Now, this manager doesn't have to be a member. It could be someone else. Oftentimes it is a member, but that manager would be authorized with authority to run the business, similarly to how the member would run it if it was member managed. And the same controls that would be in the operating agreement could apply to the manager. You can have similar restrictions. And the operating agreement it's a contract between the members. So what can be agreed upon for the most part is valid and you can put it in there. So that's, if you are doing an LLC with other members, it's good to think about what you would like to see in that document. A C corporation, another entity type. It is a separate entity. The C is just a tax classification. So a big benefit of this is it has your limited liability protection. Depending on how fast your business is going to grow, and if you're looking for multiple investors, or if you're seeking, VC seed money, investing that way, C corporations are a pretty common entity that they would like to see, that they would like to invest in. It's formed by filing articles of incorporation with the Department of State, and there's no publication requirement with this one. The internal document that governs everything is called the bylaws. And this document really controls the operation of the business. So a corporation is going to be governed by the board of directors, and then all the officers run the day-to-day business. The bylaws are going to have provisions in there controlling the board. It'll control the officers, what duties, what rights, what authority they have to take action. And it's also going to discuss notices for meetings, which I mentioned this previously. Corporations have a little more formality and a little more regulation. You'll have to have minutes, you'll have to have meetings, you'll have to take minutes, you have to have, so your shareholders will have to have an annual meeting, your board will have to have an annual meeting. Typically, there will be more than one meeting a year, depending on how your company will be set up. And so the bylaws will control all of that, and you can structure that how you'll need within the confines of New York State law. There commonly will be a shareholders agreement, which, while though not required, it's advisable. That agreement is an agreement of the shareholders, who are the individual owners. It mainly will discuss how shareholders can transfer their interests. Often we'll discuss valuation, because that can be a very important point. You might hear this called as a buy-sell agreement of the shareholders, or very similar. One of the big advantages of corporations, as with limited liability companies, is the limited liability protection for the shareholders as the owners. It's a very attractive form of a business to set up for raising the funds to get investors. But on the negative side, like I've touched on, there's a lot more formality. You're going to have to go through regular meetings, take good notes. You're going to have to keep your records. Depending on how fast the business scales, you're going to be subject to securities law if you're going to be trading your shares. So once the business grows, there's a lot more consideration to go along with a corporation. This gives a sort of a quick overview of how the corporate structure is set up. Shareholders are the owners. They're sort of at the top. The board of directors are elected typically annually by the shareholders. The board of directors generally run the overall business. They control the larger picture of how the company is going to run. The board of directors appoints the officers, and the officers are the ones who manage the day-to-day structure and operations. Officers, you can be called whatever the company wants. Typically, you'll hear them as CEO, president, treasurer, CFO, various vice presidents, secretary. But they're the ones who are going to be doing the majority of the work and the active day-to-day management of the business. And S corporations. So an S corporation is a little different type of an entity. It's not an entity that you set up as an S corp. You're not filing documents saying, I want to create an S corp. You're creating another type of entity, a corporation, an LLC, and you're making a tax election to be treated as an S corp. Inherently, there are a lot of restrictions with this. You have to have less than 100 shareholders. You can't exceed that. All shareholders have to be individual human beings and US citizens. So with a corporation or an LLC, if I had an LLC, my fellow member could be another LLC. But if you were elected to be treated as an S corporation, you couldn't have an LLC be an owner of the S corp. It has to be individual people. And there can only be one class of stock. Now, there's a sort of exception to that. You can bifurcate the voting rights of it. So your one class can have voting and non-voting owners, but you can't treat the ownership, the shares, differently for how distributions and dividends would be given. So you can't have a preferred share and a non-preferred share. Preferred share meaning whoever owns a preferred share is going to get the first cut at the distribution, the dividend. S corps are really attractive for their tax benefit. I think if you're going to be considering an S corp, talk to your tax advisor, talk to your CPA, see if it's going to be the right fit for you, and then get in touch with your attorney. it's a single tax entity, and we'll go into single tax and double tax in just a bit. S corps allow you to pay a reasonable salary to the owners. So in an LLC, you as the owner, you're not directly an employee. You're not paying yourself a salary. You're taking your draws, you're taking your distributions out when you decide to, but you're not getting a reasonable salary. But if you if you made an election to be an S corp, you can have a reasonable salary. And your tax advisor, there's a lot of tax treasury regulations out there. Your tax advisor can work with you. There's what is reasonable is going to be different in every scenario. The drawback with S corps, they can't be publicly traded, and all the restrictions I went through. The big one being you can't have other LLCs or corporations be owners. So if you're looking to get VC funds or just other investors, oftentimes investors will want to invest through another entity, and they can't do that. They can't invest in your S corp if they're going to be doing so through a different entity. So taxation of all these different types, double tax versus pass-through, flow-through entities. C corporations, excuse me, are a double taxed entity. So as you see on the left there, money flows into the corporation, there's an event of tax. That money is taxed. When the corporation then flows the money out to the shareholders at the shareholder level have a tax. So there's two events of taxation. The other types of entities, S corp included, are single taxed entities. Money flows into the business, there's no tax. Money flows out to the members, the owners, the partners. That's where the tax kicks in. So, depending on how big or how fast your business will scale, and oftentimes an LLC is the more attractive option just from a simple tax perspective. Talk to your CPAs, talk to your tax advisors, think about what your scaling might be and how fast you might get to certain points. C corps are more attractive for certain investors, so you might want to go that route, and just know that there is a double tax there. Restricted professions, I touched on this previously. Certain professions can't just simply set up an LLC or a corporation. They have to set up professional entities, professional companies. Sort of very common ones are attorneys, accountants, and for different levels of medical professionals, nurse practitioners, doctors, your engineers. I mentioned Koffman Gerhardt is a limited liability partnership. The real big thing to take away from professional entities is that, yes, there is liability protection, but as a professional, you can't truly separate yourself from your professional negligence, your malpractice. You will have limited liability protection. So if someone slipped and fell in your waiting room, there is liability protection from that. But if you have professional negligence in your work, you can't really insulate yourself from that with the liability protection of the entity type. And going with this all, the name of your business is going to be really important. With that, your name, it sort of goes by first in time, first in right, meaning if I set up my business, if I'm doing an LLC and I file with the Department of State and nobody has that name, if I'm the first one there, that's going to be my name, and I sort of reserve that. But that's not always the case, because DBAs being for individuals or partnerships, and certificate of assumed names, which applies to corporations and LLCs, similar type of documents that allow individuals or businesses to use a different name. Those might still be conflicting with the name that you might have filed with Department of State. So you might have reserved that name, so another corporation or an LLC can't have that as their legal name, but that doesn't necessarily mean that someone else might not be operating with a very similar assumed name. And filing, setting your business up, corporation, LLC, whatever it might be, with the Department of State is not the same as a trademark. Your trademark is your unique symbol, your unique name that represents your company. Filing that is not a trademark. A trademark is a separate thing that is advisable to pursue once you feel like your business is at that point. This slide is sort of an overview of what we talked about, the key governing documents. So the operating agreement for LLCs, bylaws for corporations, along with the shareholder agreement or the buy-sell agreement, and the partnership agreements. As I've mentioned going through this presentation, the key things to think about are it allows you to structure when and how people will be paid out. If certain things are going to require a vote, commonly you're going to want to have a restriction in there saying if you're not going to be able to sell substantially all the assets of the business without a unanimous decision or a majority vote. But if you want to sell one truck out of 50, maybe that doesn't require a unanimous vote. Maybe that's just a simple majority. It's important to think about transferability. Transferability meaning in an LLC or corporation or any structure, right? You have an ownership stake. You have an interest in that business. You can sell that interest. You can transfer that interest. If you die, that can go by your will or intestacy if you don't have a will. These structural documents, these governing documents for these different entities can allow you to put restrictions on that. You can have options in there that allow the company to buy back the interest upon someone's death. You can have a right of first refusal. So if a member of an LLC decides that they want to sell to a random third party, you can have a right of first refusal clause in there saying they can go get a purchase offer, but they have to take that purchase offer, show it to all the other members, and those members will have the right to match that offer and buy it first. And those restrictions are ways for you to keep control of the business. Because, if I set up a business with one of you, I might be comfortable working with you. We might get along great, but I don't know your cousin. And if you want to sell to your cousin, I might not be comfortable with that. And so I might prefer just to buy your interest out and keep the business to myself. This slide is sort of just general advice that I give to people when they're thinking of starting a business. These 4 professionals, I highly recommend getting in contact with and developing a relationship with accountants, CPAs, tax advisors, an insurance agent, a good relationship with the bank, and an attorney. If you have those 4 people you're working with, you're going to be set up. You're going to have great advice going forward to move forward with your business. You might not need the lawyer all the time, but it's good to have that on ready, and same with an accountant. And so that's my quick overview, my run through of legal structures and organizations. If you have any other questions or you want to reach out, feel free. This slide has my information on it.
Great job. Thank you.
Yeah, of course.
Very appreciative of Koffman and Gerhardt's. You guys have been a long-standing sponsor of this competition. I think I've been here for 15 of these competitions, and I think you guys have been here for practically all of them. So
Nice.
really appreciate it.
Good to hear that.
So thank you.
Yep.
We have questions from the group. Stephanie.
Hi, yes, I have a question about business structure. So if you're an LLC, do you ever have to grow up into be a C Corp, or can you be a multi-million-dollar LLC forever? Like if we're talking like we're going to swing the bat, grand slam, American dream, change generations' lives. Obviously, when you get to a certain point and people are holding stocks and all that kind of thing is different. But if you're talking like, I'm a one-woman show and I'm looking to change the game, you could just stay that LLC. That's a nice sweet spot.
That could be the perfect sweet spot.
Okay.
There's no requirement to ever switch your entity type like that.
Okay.
Commonly, an LLC is great for, like you're saying, if it's just you, perfect entity. You bring in a couple more members, still a great entity. You bring in 50 members, gets a little more complicated.
Yeah.
And that, in those scenarios, that's kind of how I view it. If you bring in a ton of members, maybe a corporation is going to be better suited for you. It allows, it can just get messy because each member is going to have more direct control,
Right.
more voting rights versus a corporation.
So it's more organizational size, not revenue based.
Yes,
Okay.
correct.
I think that was my question after hundreds of, my YouTube business degree at this point. Thank you.
How long does it take to set up an LLC?
Great question. So an LLC is almost instantaneous to set up the initial filing. It's one online form, assuming it doesn't get bounced back by New York State, which commonly will happen because of the name's already taken, or the name is too similar to another entity's name. Once that online form is filed and accepted by New York State, you are set up and you could start operating your business with that LLC. But following that, the publication steps that I mentioned for 6 weeks, you still have to comply with. You still have to set up your operating agreement within 90 days of being formed. But it's that initial first filing of the Articles of Organization that really allows you to initially you can hit the ground running once that's filed with the Department of State.
Your firm helps with figuring out the name for a company?
Yep, we can. Sort of the best way to do it, and it's not 100%. If you just Google New York State Department of State Business Entity Database, I believe, some variation of those words, you'll find a New York State page where you can type in a name and you can check a box for corporation or LLC or both. And it's not 100%, but if your name is not popping up as already an existing company, more than likely that's an available name. And so if you're ever thinking of, hey, I might like this name, you can play around with that and see if it probably will be available if it's not popping up already.
Questions, anyone else? Okay,
Hi, can you hear me?
yes,
Okay, great.
hi, Izzy.
Yes, hi everyone. I'm calling from Vancouver, Canada, and I'm scaling up the business to Binghamton area. And I was wondering if in our case, we have a corporation right now, and I've been exploring opening a Delaware, but I'm not sure if a Delaware can also be a LLC. I am a little bit confused. I can use some guidances in. Oh,
Okay, some
well,
guidance as far as whether to open in Delaware or New York State. Is that your question?
yes, that's right.
Okay,
Mhm.
So it's a good question. It's a pretty common question. I think if you're just reading on the internet or watching YouTube videos about starting businesses, you'll see Delaware is a very attractive state to set up your business. And that mainly is because there's a specific business court. So any litigation matters tied to business can sort of be expedited and handled in that fashion. But in conjunction with that, it is a more business-friendly state. There's a lot less sort of oversight and regulation. I would say if you're debating Delaware versus another state, there's really no true great answer. It's going to be what you're more comfortable with. If you're going to be looking for investors, maybe investors are going to want to see it be a Delaware company or Delaware corporation. If you're based out of New York, it might be more convenient to have it in New York. If it's in Delaware and you have legal questions, I'm not barred in Delaware, so if someone came to me with specific Delaware questions, I couldn't help them. They're gonna have to go find a Delaware attorney. And
Mhm.
being able to do that over the phone is convenient, but it's a little more of a hassle. And
Mhm.
so there are some considerations with that, but Delaware is an attractive state to set up corporations.
Mhm. Okay, at least to start, and then we can always change, right? It's
So you could change, it's a little, there's always merger processes, conversion, setting up a new company and converting. That can be a little
Mhm.
complicated. What you can do is you can get authority to do business in another state. So let's say you did set up in Delaware, the easiest route if you wanted to do business would just be to file
Mhm.
in your particular state, New York or Pennsylvania, whatever it might be, to do business in that state.
Mhm. Great. Thank you so much. Mhm.
We hope it's in New York State.
Yes.
Questions? Anyone else? Okay, great. Well, thank you, Chris.
Yeah, of course. Thank you.
And thank you again, all of you, for joining us this evening. Thanks again to all our sponsors, Koffman and Gerhardt, IdeaCraft, our major co-sponsor, M&T Bank, the Koffman Southern Tier Incubator, SUNY Broome Entrepreneurial Assistance Center, Freshie Website Design, Davidson Fox Certified Public Accountants, 3i Graphics and Signs, the Greater Binghamton Chamber of Commerce, the Small Business Development Center at the Koffman Incubator, and the Triple Cities Makerspace. Please join us tomorrow from 5 to 5:30. We'll have our final session. That's a panel discussion with winners from the last 3 business plan competitions. We have Jacob Kumpan, who was the winner of the 2021 BLDC Business Plan Competition, and he's the co-founder and chief operating officer of Claw Industries, which turns landfilled glass into a cement replacement product for concrete called Pantheon. And then we have Laura Whitmore, who is the winner of the 2022 BLDC Business Plan Competition. She owns Strategic Test Prep, which is a tutoring agency that tutors students in like SAT and ACT and subject preparation in downtown Binghamton. Then we also have last year's business plan competition winner, Ryan Christ, who's a co-owner of Civic Alert Systems, who along with business partner Jason Duda, were the first place winners last year, and they developed a novel web application that enables local governments to communicate with text messaging, things like road closures, travel bans, or water main breaks. And they are marketing that product to municipalities all over New York State initially. So I'd like to thank you all again for joining us, and good night.